Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. Welcome to this presentation on teaching and learning of the gifted education in the 21st century. So we'll begin with the basics, what educators and what you should know as a teacher. We'll look at the characteristics, some of the characteristics of gifted children or students. We'll look at the role of parents and schools and, of course, your role as a teacher. Issues of underachievement, which is very important, gifted girls and gifted boys, and inclusiveness. And then there'll be some takeaways for you as a teacher. Let's get started. So firstly, what should we know as educators? Well, firstly, there is no one definition of gifted, talented, or giftedness that is universally accepted. To give a very brief definition, however, gifted and talented students are those identified professionally due to their outstanding abilities and high performance capabilities. It's important to know that talent emerges from giftedness through a complex developmental process and via a number of influences, including teaching and learning opportunities. There must be opportunities there. Gifted and talented students have individual learning needs, strengths, interests, and abilities. They vary in their level of giftedness across and within learning areas, and in their level of achievement. They also exhibit different learning behaviours to other students. This is from Akara. So just to have a little look at the differentiated model of giftedness and talented, a refined and adapted version. This presents the talent development process as the transformation of outstanding natural abilities or gifts into outstanding, systematically developed skills which define expertise or talent in a particular field. The sequence constitutes the heart of the DMGT. Three types of catalysts help or hinder that process, which are important to note, and these include interpersonal catalysts, so personal traits and self-management processes, environmental catalysts like socio-demographic factors, psychological influences, for example, from parents, teachers, or peers, and special talent development facilities and programs, as well as chance. That can be looked into further with your handout. Just a little moment to pause and jot down three main points that you've learned from this. Always important to take with you and also reflect on those 3 points there, just taking a moment. Okay, moving on. So to have a look at the characteristics of gifted students, characteristics and traits, it's important to know that there are both positive and negative characteristics. So positive include them being efficient, having a high capacity memory, superior analytic ability, expanded awareness and greater self-awareness, which is really important in relation to social capacity and issues. Higher level thinking skills, which need to be met with higher order thinking activities. High alertness, attention and curiosity, strong empathy, moral thinking and a sense of justice, imaginative and creative skills, and also often have an interest in adult topics. There are fewer negative characteristics, and some of these are an uneven mental development, interpersonal difficulties, which are often due to intellectual differences, nonconformity, variable frustration and anger, all of which need to be managed by parents and teachers, and we'll discuss more. Traits or qualities of gifted children which distinguish them from other students in the classroom typically involve precocious language and thought. Others are thinking very logically and developing much deeper skills in areas such as maths, music, and art. They have different ways of responding, so tendencies to respond to stimuli in a predetermined way, which can affect their social skills, their self-confidence, and their sense of internal control. They generally have very preferred styles of learning and instruction, which is why focused, individualized, and differentiated teaching is so important. And finally, and very importantly, the onset of boredom is common amongst gifted students. And we'll look at this further. Take a moment here to look at 5 ways gifted students learn differently, sourced from Matthew Lynch, and this is quite important to take with you as well. Just a further moment to note 3 main points that you've taken from this area of the presentation, and also a little reflection on those 3 points there. Okay, so moving on to the role of parents, schools, and yourself as a teacher. This is a really good acronym alliance. You can see there to the left, and this stands for allies, or ally. So parents and teachers should ally together to talk about concerns. Also listen to what parents and have observed about their child, and for them to listen to the teacher as well. So initiating a conversation about the student's strengths and problems, working together, asking about ideas from the parent, and then adding experimental ideas for engaging in interesting curricula and extracurricular activities as well. Also, negotiating to find appropriate adult and peer role models is important, and considering alternative possibilities if experimental opportunities are not effective. So always exploring and adapting. And then finally, extending possibilities with patience. So a quick little look at this video on YouTube, and once you've had a look, we'll come back, just taking a few moments there. So that video is by the New South Wales Department of Education and Training about the high potential and gifted education policy. So the aim is to promote engagement and challenge for every student, regardless of background, in every school, across intellectual, creative, socio-emotional, and physical domains. It aims to support every student to achieve their educational potential through development opportunities and differentiated teaching and learning practices. Very important there. That's a good little 3 points to jot down from that. So let's have a look at issues that come with gifted education. This is quite a vast topic, so we'll go through it briefly. But it's important to know that just because gifted students are highly intelligent, this doesn't mean that the school environment will come easily to them, so there definitely will be challenges. The typical gifted student is going to contend with boredom. It's because as teachers, we're busy trying to cater to the needs of all students, of course, and a lot of attention is put towards helping students who learn more slowly. So gifted students' needs tend to become unmet. They may have a lack of maturity, but really high abilities. So we have to make sure that gifted students are catered to according to their high ability area. Otherwise, they may lose interest and completely act out. So note that according to their specific area, so really working with their strengths. So untrained teachers, not our fault. Again, always it's very much up to the school as well to implement these guidelines, but we need to understand that and realise that the levels of giftedness students have, and we want to make sure that we make the adjustments needed to meet their needs. So behavioural problems, teachers may complain about the behaviours that come with giftedness, such as talkativeness, not paying attention, distracting and others and being disruptive. This is likely because they are too restricted. So some of the expectations we have for good behaviour are to be expected when a child's needs are being met, but not when they're not being met. Also, homework or classroom work, they may not follow all the steps in mathematics, for example, or the working out, but that doesn't mean they don't know how to do it. They just simply find it unnecessary. So we really need to explain why expectations are made rather than just marking them wrong. It can become really frustrating. Also, personality conflicts. So, for example, maybe in learning styles, the teacher may be a visual learner, which is a style that isn't necessarily effective for a kinesthetic learner. So we really need to pay attention to this and approach learning as to what is going to be the most effective for our gifted children. Just to go into the general tendencies and differences between gifted boys and girls, and it's really important to not stereotype, but just to understand that these can be applied to not just gifted children, but it's helpful to know that there are differences. So to create an inclusive classroom, we really need to be aware of stereotypes. So as discussed in gifted girls, gifted boys previously, and in your handout, there are general tendencies and differences to acknowledge between gifted girls and boys in general in the classroom. They may create stereotypes, however, and this can lead to missing the point with individual profiles. We really need to observe individual students on an individual basis. Twice exceptional can be something in gifted students that we also need to be aware of. Their profiles are often not prioritised by regular education. These students thrive and excel when they have the opportunity to show their advanced interpretations. They may draw pictures of their interpretations and act them out to understand them or to help you understand them. So this is something that really needs to be accommodated with twice exceptional gifted children. Dissolving myths. So there's a study which we can't go into in too much depth, but by Terman, who tracked more than 1,500 high IQ children. And he described his subjects glowingly as not only superior in intelligence, but also in health, social adjustment, and moral attitude. This gave rise to a myth that gifted children are happy and well-adjusted by nature, which is incorrect. It can be problematic and sadly still guides the way these children are educated today. Also, culturally, economically, and linguistically diverse students are underrepresented, and there's a whole host of different other kind of subcategories to this, which does go into depth in your handout. And so we really need a school environment that is inclusive for all students. This is really important. And these points briefly mentioned are especially vital to continually relook at in our schools. Just a moment to reflect here on a great infograph. You can take that with you. And then some takeaways for you as a teacher. So a really great quote there that the underachieving gifted child represents both society's greatest loss and its greatest potential. So take note of those points of exemplary teachers of the gifted. Really lovely points to make and to reflect on. That final one, a willingness to learn with and from students. So they teach us as much as we teach them often, and that's how we work to meet their potential. So there are some some readings and resources for you, and thank you very much for listening.